Hi there, this is Craig Stevens again, and this podcast will be talking about Mintzbergs structural configurations, organizational configurations. So to find this, you would go to westbrookstevens.com/organizational.htm, and there's several PowerPoint slides, and this is a makeup class for 4410. Managing systems management. The first slide is M1, Mintzbergs model, and in this we have a picture, and the picture looks like this. You have a strategic apex at the top. There's a middle line that leads to an operating core, and then there's technostructures attached to one side and support staff attached to the other side. You can create all kinds of organizational structures by the way you put these 5 elements together. So that's the M1, figure M1. If we go to M2, we're going to define what each of those elements are. Remember, the operating core is at the bottom. That represents the people performing the work or doing the service. The strategic apex is at the top. That is the senior managers, the board, who focus on the external environment and determine the mission, shape, and design of the company. The middle managers, they're the supervisors, the controlling people, that sounds bad, but the people who control and provide the resources to the operators. In some cases, they're controlling people. In some cases, they're not. Technostructure, that's the specialist on one side of this organization that's to support the whole organization. And they might be made up of specialists or analysts who standardize, measure, and inspect outputs and design things and put companies' systems together, right? And maybe IT, it may be engineering, it may be a whole group of people. Statisticians. And since I can relate to all those, I do IT, I'm an industrial engineer, a statistician, and all this other stuff. I can relate to that technostructure side. Support staff. Now that's where I am a lot too. These are people who perform tasks that support and facilitate the work of others. So I've been in all these areas, and so I can relate to that. That was figure M2. Now the next figure, and also we have a picture of Mintzberg talking about something I found on YouTube, and I'll try to find more pictures of more videos of these great authors and great scientists who created these systems. Now, to explain these structures to the systems management class, go to M3, and this is an example of how you might manipulate those 5 elements to create different structures. So Mintzberg's simple structure shows a strategic apex connected to the operating core. You don't see a technostructure, you don't see a support staff, you don't see a middle line. So here's the good thing about that. It's flexible. It can adapt well because there's very few decisions have to be made. A small group or one person at top directs the entire organization, so they have their will. Now the bad part is they're in charge. So the authorities can block change. They can use punishment in unfair ways. They can use rewards in lavish, unfair ways. They can make business decisions any way they want to because there's not a whole lot of procedures for them to use in order to make decisions on. Now the leaders there's another bad thing, the leaders may be distracted by some kind of immediate problem in the operations level and neglect the whole strategic concepts and issues that require them to move forward and compete in the 21st century. Sometimes I think of this, there's 2 ways to think of this, there's a bunch of ways to think of this, but 2 ways I think of it is maybe a small mom and pop company, or maybe a company that's very organic and very professional, like a law firm where there's a couple of people at the top and a few partners to spread out, but no one really manages anybody else. They manage the work they do. Another way, and this is typical too, of the business life cycle, where you start off small, you grow, you meet your market you maximize your market share, and then that product dies off. So that business life cycle, you would often find this in the first part of the life cycle, in the entrepreneurial phase, where there's not enough people or not enough work, and as soon as they start growing, then they start growing structure with that process. And also processes. Help companies do that before. Now the next slide is related to, next slide is figure M4 on the Westbrook Stevens website, and this is Mintzbergs machine bureaucracy. Now in this case you see all 5 elements that Mintzberg has in his organizational structure, and it looks very much like the first figure we saw, only technostructure is grown, it's huge, and support staff is huge. So that's what the picture looks like. If we go to the next slide, which is M5, then here's what we'll see. Sometimes there's 3 bullets here, and the first bullet says found in large, highly structured environments, and it gave an example in the book that we're using. And the book is called, had to get on screen, Reforming Organizations, Artistry, Choice, and Leadership, Lee Bowman and Terrence Deal. That's the name. That's the book. So a lot of this material comes from the book, and it's based on Mintzberg's models. And they report on Mintzberg's models. So here's what they used the example of McDonald's versus Harvard. In the machine bureaucracy, it's more of an example of McDonald's, because there's a whole bunch of people trying to find the best statistical way of doing things, and there's a support staff to make that happen. The operating core is all the franchises, and the franchises don't have a lot of choice on how they design those hamburgers. You buy into the franchise, you buy into the structure. Large support staffs. Key challenges: motivating workers on the lowest levels. Can you imagine? Have you ever been into a place like McDonald's, or any place, and only use McDonald's because most McDonald's seem to have a pretty good group of people, but companies, their biggest strategic problem is the lowest level employees don't feel motivated. You want to they want to be naturally be creative and do things differently. The people own the stores, but you can't, because you have to change, and you have to control change and creativity. Slow change and adaptation to new things. Tension between managers and the workers and the executives. So there's tension between this group, because the franchisors and the franchisees and all the different people want to be in charge. So there's a lot of tension between these groups in the worst cases. So that's figure F5. We have a little bit of time, but I think what I'm going to do is we're going to close down this podcast, and I'll bring it up in the next podcast. So this is Craig A. Stevens at westbrookstevens.com. If you want to contact me, go to Craig A. Stevens at westbrookstevens.com and email me, and I'll try to get back to you.